Imagine calling the police, right? Because you found this bleeding, terrified teenager wandering the street. And then the cops show up and they physically hand that victim right back to a serial killer.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It actually happened in Milwaukee. So, welcome to your custom deep dive. Today's mission isn't just about, recounting what a monster did. We are dissecting the harrowing facts and really the systemic blind spots of the Jeffrey Dahmer case. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Right, because you probably know the tragic scope, like the 17 murders of young men and boys spanning from 1978 to 1991.
Exactly. But the mechanisms of how he evaded capture for so long, that's what we really need to look at today.
Well, to understand those blind spots, you have to look at how he built his camouflage early on. Born in 1960, he projected this incredibly mundane facade.
Like a totally normal guy.
Exactly, and it completely masked his obsession with death. His first murder, an 18-year-old named Stephen Hicks, happened right after he graduated high school in 1978.
But then he just stopped for almost a decade. I've always struggled to wrap my head around that gap.
Yeah, 10 years is a long time.
People usually describe it as a dormant volcano, but looking at the sources, that just feels wrong. A volcano implies this uncontrollable natural force, right?
Yeah, right.
For him, it reads more like a pressure release valve. He vents that dark urge in 78, and that single release is exactly what allows him to perfectly reseal his mask and blend in for the next 10 years.
Definitely. And looking at the psychology behind that gap, the sheer length of it, proves this wasn't some uncontrollable frenzy.
Right.
It was highly calculated. He had the discipline to wait until his environment and his methods were perfectly suited to resume killing in the late 1980s without drawing attention.
And that environment is where the real horror of this story lies, I think. Because when he does resume, his MO relies on exploiting people the system frankly didn't care about.
Yeah, he lured young men from bus stations, malls, and bars with offers of cash for photos, and then he drugged and strangled them.
It's just horrific. And the sources detail this gruesome escalation into keeping trophies and conducting these horrific chemical experiments.
Right, trying to create those zombie-like victims.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm really stuck on the logistics here. You don't do mass dismemberment in a residential apartment building without terrible smells or, noise.
You really don't.
How did the sheer scale of this not trigger an immediate police raid?
Well, what's fascinating here is the alarms actually were tripped repeatedly.
Wait, really? The police knew?
Yeah, the darkest revelation in the source material isn't just the physical gore. It's the sheer number of direct encounters Dahmer had with law enforcement.
Oh, wow.
We aren't talking about subtle clues missed by detectives. In the case you mentioned at the start, 14-year-old Konorak Synthesumphone, police literally walked a bleeding, heavily drugged victim back into Dahmer's apartment.
I can't believe they did that.
Dahmer calmly convinced the officers it was just a lover's quarrel, and they bought it completely.
That is just staggering. It forces you to realize the police weren't just missing clues. Their assumptions were actively doing his work for him.
Absolutely.
They took the word of a polite white man over the obvious physical distress of a vulnerable minority victim.
And the eventual capture really underscores that systemic failure because law enforcement didn't crack the case.
Right. It was one of the victims.
Yeah, the system was bypassed entirely by a victim's sheer will to survive. On July 22, 1991, Tracy Edwards managed to escape the apartment, literally still in handcuffs.
Wow.
And he flagged down a patrol car right on the street.
But even then, it took physical, undeniable proof staring them in the face.
Oh, definitely. The officers accompany Edwards back to the apartment, and the illusion is finally shattered.
Because they find the dismemberment photos, the preserved human remains, severed heads. It's just this overwhelming scene.
Yeah, and that leads to his immediate arrest and detailed confessions to the 17 killings.
So what happened next? The trial must have been intense.
It was. The 1992 trial further highlighted the psychological complexities of the case. Dahmer pleaded guilty, but insane.
But the jury didn't buy that, right?
No, they found him legally sane, meaning he fully understood the criminality of his actions.
Right, so he gets sentenced.
Yeah, he was handed 15 life sentences, which amounts to over 900 years. Though, he only served until November 1994.
Because he was killed by a fellow inmate, right, at age 34.
Exactly.
This case remains infamous not just for the brutal facts you already knew, but for exposing a safety net that was utterly broken.
Yeah, the authorities repeatedly had him in their grasp and just let him go.
It forces us to examine how a predator weaponizes the blind spots of the authorities against the very people they are sworn to protect.
It really does.
The source notes that repeated warning signs were missed, which leaves you with a lingering question to explore on your own. When systems fail so spectacularly to protect vulnerable targets, how much do societal biases dictate who authorities choose to believe and who they choose to ignore?